What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is Saturday. Let me have a look at my phone here. Today is Saturday the 5th of Feb and I'm on the big boy camera today. Hopefully the quality's better, hopefully the audio's a little better. It's heavy, it's probably shaking a little bit, but I've got some exciting news. I have bought another car. I did allude to it in another video that I would be buying another car, and that car's going to be turned into a track car eventually, and that car is a 1998 Honda Integra, and here she is. So I thought we'd start off this video by having a quick look around the car. There's a lot of things that I want to do to this car, but I'm going to wait until the Evo's finished before I get really stuck in on this car. It has its pros, it has its cons, so let's have a look and go from there. So the exterior of the car is, well, it's green, as you can see, and the paint, well, the paint's terrible. So I've already taken the wing off, which is sitting over there, and as a result, I've got this to deal with. I've already cleaned the other side. So I thought we'd start with the exterior of the car, what condition it's in now and what we're going to do to it eventually. So it is green. I actually like this color. I did think I was going to paint this car championship white, but I kind of like the green, so I might keep it. So let me know what you think. In terms of the paint, at the moment, all the clear coat's starting to come off. It doesn't look so great. I have cut and polished this side, and I haven't cut and polished this side, so we can kind of get a bit of an idea as to the quality of the paint and the fact that it may come up just a little bit nicer than it is now. As you can see, clear coat's starting to deteriorate there. As we work our way to the front of the car, all of the seals are pretty shot. I've gone through and put some trim restoration stuff on this side, so this actually looks quite good in comparison this side over here. So as you can see, this side is super faded, and on the other side with the restoration stuff, it looks a lot nicer. Still not perfect, but a lot better than it was. Now if we move our way forward, as you can see, this clear coat starting to look worse. This is the worst panel here. It's not very nice. May get the door resprayed and the quarter. I'm not sure how to attack this yet. So that's a con. One of the pros, there's no sunroof. All the cars I looked at all had sunroofs, and that's just a headache, and I didn't want to deal with it. One doesn't have a sunroof. Stoked about that because this will be a track car and we don't want all that weight up there. Coming to the front, yes, it's the bug eye model. This is an Australian new model, so I don't think they came with a JDM front over here. This is my third Integra. My last two had the JDM front on them, but I own those in New Zealand, and in New Zealand we have a lot of Japanese imports, and we've imported them for decades. Moving around, the front's in pretty good condition. Again, I've polished this half of the bonnet and not this half. I don't know if that'll show up on camera. So she's pretty glossy there, and as you can see, it gets very hazy. So we're hazy there, and then we look a little polished. Still got more to do. I just did a rough cut and polish on it. So I think what we'll do is we'll finish cut and polishing the whole car, and then I'm going to clay bar it, and then I'm going to cut and polish it again. I know it sounds a bit backwards, but that's just, I think that's what this car needs. So the front of the car, it's got the facelift bug eye, I guess you call it. It's got the little accents around the headlights, and the bottom of the bumper I believe is a little bit different too. We've got skeelies, so those have got to go. This car will be lowered, it will be put on some decent wheels. So yeah, that concludes the walk around of the car on the outside. So as you can see, she's pretty rough. She needs a lot of TLC. In terms of body styling, I'm going to keep it how it is. I was going to do a JDM front on it, but because my last two Integras have been JDM fronts, I think I'm going to keep this as a bug eye, at least for a little while. The Type R option spats, the Type R option side skirts, and a front lip on the front. Then we're going to tint these windows because we don't want to look like a fishbowl. And I think that's about it for the outside styling. So yeah, refresh the paint, wheels, lower it, some side skirts, some bits and pieces, and she should be good to go. And I just noticed this front tire is going flat again. Right, so that's the outside of the car. As you can see, it needs a lot of work, and now let's jump into the interior. So starting with the interior of this car, I mean, these door panels are super rough. They've got indentations on them, they've got worn out marks that they feel disgusting, they feel greasy, the fabric's stuffed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some new door cards in, well not new but fresh door cards in. The other door card over here is in pretty much the same condition. It's pretty hard to see in the dark here, but yeah, that door panel is pretty crap as well. The dash is in great condition, and the good thing about this dash is it doesn't have the airbag in the dash, so I'm happy about that. I do have the nappy steering wheel here, which I will be swapping out for something else because these things are hideous. Now, one of the cons with the interior, which I'm about to show you, is this. This is a big con. It's auto, and well, we don't really want an auto track car, so what is the plan, you may be asking? So I've already purchased a B-Series gearbox for this. It took me about a month to find one. They're really hard to find. It was the only one on the market in Australia. In fact, it wasn't even being advertised. I just saw it in a photo of an engine and I thought, I'm just going to ask. It was like an ad that was 1.5 years old. So I just inquired and said, hey, is that gearbox for sale and can I buy it? And they went, yeah, you can. It's $700. So that's on a truck and that will be here any day now. To go with the manual conversion though, I need a bunch of other parts which I have started sourcing. I have got the accelerator, brake and clutch pedal out of a manual. Accelerator's already here, the other parts coming soon. So as you guessed, this does have a B-Series engine in it. No, it's not VTEC, but we will check that out shortly and have a discussion about that. Yeah, so with the manual conversion, I've got the gearbox, I've got all the pedals, I've got the clutch master, I've got one out of a Honda S2000. You typically use the Honda S2000 ones just to make the engine bay look a little cleaner because it gets rid of the remote reservoir. We'll get to that in another video when I actually put that stuff in, which it won't be for a while yet. I still need some parts. The parts that I still need to source are mainly the flywheel, clutch and the shift linkages. I've pretty much got everything else. Those parts are really hard to find. I can buy a brand new linkage assembly, but I'd rather just find a second-hand one all in good nick if I can, and if I can't, I'll buy a new one. It is what it is. So there we have it, manual conversion coming, and on with the rest of this interior. So as I was saying, the dash is in actually really good condition, so I'm happy with that. The airbag steering wheel, well, that's getting ditched. What I'm going to do over time is replace all the stuff in here with Type R stuff. I've got another climate control on its way from a Type R, so this will be the fake carbon fiber along with all the red buttons. At the moment these are blue, and that'll convert that all to red, and also the trim. And also this is really old and faded and terrible, so it'll clean all this up. As you can see down in here, we have the original CD player and tape deck. I'm going to rip those out. I don't think I'm going to have audio in this car at all. The whole point is to turn it into a track car. So I'll rip that out with the speakers. I'll get to the weight reduction shortly, but the other thing I've got is the Type R surround for the manual shift knob and a Type R boot that'll be going in here. So all this is already going to get cleaned up. Already bought the parts. I'm just waiting for those to arrive. The other thing I've got to get rid of this nasty auto gauge cluster is this Honda Integra Type R gauge cluster here, so I'm going to pop that in. Main reason is just it looks better, and once I do all the work to the engine, this will become more useful. Right, so to have a discussion about the weight reduction in the car, basically what I'm going to do is pull all the audio out of the car. I'm also going to pull out all of the sound deadening, and then I may even leave the rear of the car out, just the back seats and the parcel tray and that. I'm undecided on that. I may leave it in, it's not that much weight. If I decide to put a half gauge in the car, obviously it will come out. It's just easier to do it that way. So that's something for another day. And part of the weight reduction is also pulling out the air conditioning. I live in Australia now, it's really hot, so I'm not sure I want to do that. It is an option. So what a lot of people used to do was rip out the air conditioning, rip out the power steering, do a loop on the steering rack, so you're just looping the fluid back into itself, and makes it a lot harder to turn the steering wheel around town, but it declutters the engine bay and makes everything a lot simpler. So we'll see what happens there. I may keep it, I may not. We'll just have to wait and see. The other thing with the interior, which I'm actually pretty stoked about, is the rear parcel tray. Now if you know, Honda Integras always get 6x9s, or used to get 6x9s in the parcel tray. So to find a parcel tray that's in good condition with no holes in it, that's pretty rare. So just the fact that that parcel tray has no holes in it and they're incredibly hard to find makes me want to keep the interior in the car. Probably doesn't make sense, but To me it does. This is the third Integra I've had in the last sort of 17-18 years, so to me it's a novelty. Right, so onto the engine. Right, so here is the engine bay. As you can see, it's non-VTEC. We have a B18 B2 in here. These are pretty strong, decent engines. They don't put out anywhere near as much power as the B18C or the B18C5 out of the Type R, but you know, they're good in their own right. I've got a few options as to what to do about this engine, which I'll run through shortly. But to start off with, engine bay, generally speaking, is pretty clean. There's no rust in this car. I went over it with a fine tooth comb. So over here we have the ABS unit. Obviously we've got the intake. I did have a look at the air filter in there. It's absolutely filthy. Probably going to swap that out for a spoon filter. So moving to the back of the engine here, when we put the clutch master cylinder in, it'll go down there with its own reservoir on top, just underneath the fuel filter there. Normally on an Integra you have a clutch master down there, and it'll feed up to that little reservoir sitting up here. To get rid of that reservoir, you put a Honda S2000 clutch master down there, and it gets rid of all that. So that's what's going to happen there. Over this side, battery, probably going to put it in the boot, and probably going to put the fuse box under the dash, because why not? And another thing I will do is, obviously I'll get a new lid for this, because that's not ideal. And all of these cables for the headlights, those will all get tucked in the guards eventually as well. I've de-loomed a couple of these engine bays now, so they're pretty easy for me to work on, and so why not clean it up? Coming back to engine options. There's a few options. Option 1, we leave this engine. Option 2 would be to find a B18C to swap in. Those are really rare, they're hard to find, and they're expensive, so I'm not sure about that. Option 3 would be to put a B16A head on this. Why B16A? It's because they flow better than the B18C. The next option would be to turbo it, and the option after that would be just to case swap the car. Obviously they all vary in price. The case swap's probably the same price as trying to find a B18C5 for this thing. Turboing it's probably a bit cheaper. I have found a B16A in another country where I have family, so they could send me the head off the engine. I'm still not sure about that though. And there you have it. That is the engine bay, which will get cleaned up. So I'm pretty happy with this car. I got it for a reasonable price, a very reasonable price. So the fact that it's in really poor condition, I'm not too worried about, because I have all that extra money to do the things I want to do to it. I always intended on painting this car championship white, just so that it feels like the old 96 back Integra Type R that I had, but I'm kind of liking the green, so let me know what you think. Do I keep the green and clean it up and respray it, or do I go full championship white? Either way, the engine will be coming out of the car, and the full engine bay will be getting a respray, whether it's green, whether it's white, or whether it's Nighthawk black. I don't know. Let me know what you think. So before the end of the video, I thought we might just start off by chucking the Integra Type R gauge cluster in this and seeing if it works. Alright, so the only downfall of using the Sony a7 III, which is why I don't use it that often, is that I can't see if this is in focus, and I can't really see what you're looking at. So hopefully you get a bit of this in the shot, and we're going to take all this out and put in the Integra Type R cluster. So let's get to it. Well, there's the old one, the crusty old one. It's got a crack in it. It's she's in pretty poor condition. It's done 196,000 Ks, in case you're wondering. That's kilometers, not miles. And here's the new cluster. So the new cluster's in a little bit better condition, needs a bit of a wipe down, but 183,000 kilometers, so it's not too different from the other one, which is kind of good, I suppose. So the only real benefit to going to this is that, one, it gets rid of all the auto stuff on the face of it. So if we compare the two, you can see that it's got the park, reverse, and everything on the top. The other thing that I like about this is the yellow needles, the red backlighting, and the fake carbon fiber. This thing's bloody ugly. Another thing with this one, obviously it has the higher red line and it also has a higher kilometer per hour. This one goes to 230, this one goes to 270. Not that I'm going to be going that fast, but when we do go to a track car, these will come in handy once I've figured out what I'm going to do with the engine. If I did stick with the B18B, I probably will build it so that it can rev a bit higher, but I'd rather do the VTEC and have everything working properly that way. So let's chuck this in. Okay, and there we have it. Now that's sitting in there, what I need to do is go and grab my car key and see if it works. Alright, so first start, let's see if this works. Okay, everything on the dash is coming up. Yes, it is working, and all of the lights are turned on. That looks amazing, so much better than the stock. Alright, so now that we know that's working, what we're going to do is put everything back in, and I will show you a close-up of the gauge once I've screwed everything back in. Right, so we've got everything back in. It's all looking great now. I'll give you a close-up in a second, but I just wanted to say the other thing that I don't like about the car is that it was a smoker's car. There's a bit of ash everywhere. It hasn't been cleaned. So this car was initially traded in for another car, and the dealer was just like, we just want to get rid of it. We don't want it. They're not going to clean it. So it needs a really good clean. There's dust and ash everywhere. So go through, give it a really good clean. Half of the stuff in here is getting either ripped out or replaced, so that'll make it relatively easy to get rid of the cigarette smell. I've done it before. This car's not that bad. I've cleaned out way worse cars. I also have a little ozone thingy that you jam in the car and flick it on, and it'll help get rid of some of the smell. So that's what I'm going to do. I won't do that on camera, but I'm not obviously going to show you how to clean a car because there's a million videos like that, and that's pretty easy to do. Anyway, let's check out this gauge cluster. So there we have it, the new gauge cluster's in. It's looking super nice, so let's try it out. There we go. There's a little dial here as well on the side, so you can dial the brightness up and down, but generally speaking, it looks really good. So much better than the factory stuff. So for comparison, down here, that blue down there you can see, that is the factory colour that the gauge cluster was. Not a very nice colour. I like the red much better. Let's give it a start actually. Let's start the car up and see what she looks like. Hey. Let's close the door and see if that works. Hey. Perfect. Wow, looks like I need to fill it up. She's a bit low. But there you have it. There's the Integra. There's not going to be too much footage on it in the meantime, just because this is my daily driver until the Evo's finished. Then I can drive the Evo around when I'm doing work on the Integra. The first main thing I want to do is obviously get that manual conversion in. Besides that, off camera, I'm going to do all the interior clean, the exterior clean, and take some before and after video of that so I can show you in another video. But there you have it. That's it. And the other thing I'll probably show in a video sooner than later is ripping out the sound deadening and ripping out the stereo system and all that stuff, and see how much weight we can reduce the car by. Obviously the more you reduce the weight, the better the power to weight ratio is, which means that I need to drop some weight myself, because sometimes the easiest thing to do when you're my size and weight is to lose size, and then your power to weight ratio in your car gets better. So there you have it. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, because there will be a lot more content in the future on this car. And in the next video, obviously we're going to be working on the Evo. I have been making progress on that in the background too, so we'll see you then.